Oi oi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you, this is Doodle Review. It's a channel with one eye on music in all its forms. You know, we cover pop, jazz, R&B, folk, but we have another slightly more bloodshot eye solely focused on anything remotely alt-rock related. We hit you with a new rock or guitar based album pretty much every other day, so if that's just vibe, subscribe mate. You're sure to hear me talk about a band you love within a matter of the next few days, and in the meantime you might find something that you don't yet know that you're going to love. Today we're talking about Washington DC punk and hardcore legends Scream. Now, assuming I haven't changed my mind on this very lame plan to spark a few more clicks and a few more views, I probably owe the band an apology for the thumbnail on this video that says something dumb like the new album from Dave Grohl's first ever band. Yes, Scream were indeed the first kind of established, label-signed, world-touring professional band that old Mr. Teeth joined as drummer. This was back before grunge came calling, and he joined, Kurt Cobain and the Nirvana Spa on their smash hit album. Actually, would you mind? I feel the need to apologise because, as with any band that has an encounter with a deified icon, near can more than a single paragraph on the band Scream exist without at least a mention of Grohl, and I'm contributing to that right now. Grohl's obviously an incredible musician, especially behind the kit, but one who did only play with the band on 2 of their original 5 albums, and to be honest, Scream just deserve a lot more respect than they get among certain rock audiences as just the band that Grohl was in before Nirvana. Formed in 1981 by brothers Pete and Franz Stoll, bassist Skeeter Thompson, and eventually joined by drummer Kent Stax, Scream were a key band in the influential Washington DC hardcore punk scene. Alongside Minor Threat and Government Issue, they followed in the footsteps of the OGs, Bad Brains, and in the process took the scene and ultimately the genre to the next level. In fact, Scream's first album, Still Screaming, was like the 12th release ever on Ian MacKay's Discord Records, probably one of the most important punk labels ever. And to be fair, those that know, and given that we're talking about punk, it probably means that those are really the only people that Scream, the band, actually care about. But if you didn't know until just then, that's cool. I'm not here to be an elitist about it or gatekeepy or anything like that. Just know that these guys were serious and way more than a footnote on any one musician's biography. Scream's original run lasted from 81 to around 1990. Their 5th and final album from that era, Fumble, did actually come out in 93, but they were already disbanded at this point. After the breakup, well, the rest is history for Grohl, and Foo Fighters fans will know that Franz Stoll and Grohl were actually briefly reunited on that project when Stoll joined the Foos as lead guitarist for a time in 97. Outside of this, Franz would also do considerable work with the Japanese artist known as Jay, and Pete Stoll, after moving to the California desert, would find himself in a new scene. Yeah, I've managed to find a Queens of the Stone Age connection, as you know I'm prone to do. Pete Stoll would perform on a number of the early Desert Sessions records, as well as Dave Catching's Earthlings project, plus forming Goatsnake with members of The Obsessed and Sun in that time as well. The Stoll brothers would also join forces to form another band called Wool, who put out a number of singles and an album called Box Set in 1994. Eventually though, after a few one-off shows in 2009 and 2010, Scream would finally reunite the original core lineup. They came back together in 2011 and began going out on various tours across the US and Europe, even putting out an EP, the Complete Control recording sessions. Beyond that EP, however, it wasn't immediately clear the band would ever get to recording a new full album. That is until 2020, when lockdowns completely obliterated their touring plans. With a heap of time now on their hands, the band would take to Kickstarter to fund a new fully fledged Scream project. Rather than simply creating a Scream reunion album though, the band set about putting together a record that explores and pays tribute to the scene and the city that spawned them. What we got toward the tail end of 2023 was this, DC Special. This is an album that sounds distinct from that first run of records from the band, but it's an album that also couldn't have been produced by anyone else. It sounds really unique and genuinely achieves the goal of representing just the melting pot of the styles that typified the Washington DC scene. Of course, the band ripped through a fair few fast-paced classic hardcore punk tracks over the course of the album, but we also get lighter cuts that might more comfortably fit an alt-rock label, some post-punk, some punk folk, and even reggae. Bored to Life, Hell Nah are the major doses of traditional hardcore on DC Special, and both tracks go hard and prove that while original drummer Kent Stax doesn't have the prestige of Grohl, that he really is no slouch behind the kit. The latter, Hell Nah, gives Skeeter Thompson a moment to shine with a frantic miniature bass solo too. Some of the more alt-rock leaning tracks are actually really good, and while offering a softer approach that could at first listen be a bit of a turn-off to fans expecting a non-stop punk assault, are well worth their place on the record. Opening the album is DC Special Sha-La-La, pretty much the project's mission statement. It's about unity with, as the title suggests, some really fun and affecting backing vocals to support the crunchy guitars. Pete Stahl smashes the vocal, and I actually find this to be one of the most satisfying choruses on the record. A few tracks later we also get Somebody Love, a bouncy riff-based track where that aforementioned Franz style guitar line is played with a really fun kind of looseness, making it just great to follow. Not all alternative rock tracks are created equal on this album though. The Flam does have a very cool, very loose drum groove and some interesting guitar parts, but it ultimately drags on far too long, and while Pete Stahl's vocals are great, as usual, the lyrics talking about a need to kind of disconnect to connect and the perils of the information age are just a bit kind of cringeworthy. On a similar cringeworthy note, we also have Tum Tum, the album's reggae track. Now, I've always really appreciated the kind of ideology that has seen punk and reggae bands kind of come together and fuse with mutual appreciation, and of course Bad Brains are absolutely killer, but I think while I love the idea of it, I rarely do I hear a punk band take a left turn into reggae and actually enjoy it. Tum Tum, I'm afraid, is no different. It has a couple of elements I like, such as the organ parts, but overall this is just a long, cringeworthy song where a dude my dad's age is kind of doing a reggae track about chatting up his neighbour. I understand why it's here to reflect this aspect of DC music, I'm just not really feeling it. My only other real criticism of this album was its length. At 18 tracks and an hour long, it definitely drags its heels at points and has some patchy moments. But I say it was my issue because I've since come to learn that the last six cuts are actually bonus tracks. As I've mentioned several times in the past, I hate bonus tracks, particularly in the age of streaming where these extra songs that might include some gems, to be fair, but these extra songs ultimately kind of dilute the power of the originally intended album. While the digital version of this album offers no way to distinguish the album from the bonus cuts, so it's ostensibly one album, it did make me look at things differently. On one hand, I now really love the pacing of the record. 12 tracks pulls the record down to a nice kind of 45 minutes, almost the perfect album length. 40 minutes is the correct answer to that question. But on the other hand, I do also question some of the choices between what was left kind of on and off the main record. Two of my absolute favourites, surprisingly, are the acoustic tracks Last of the Soft and Black and White. The former a really cool track documenting the social unrest and protest during the pandemic era, while the latter, I think, a track about kind of empathy and trying to find common ground with someone who maybe has like opposing viewpoints. Both of these tracks are raw but powerfully melodic. Strangely though, Black and White with its string section and all is actually not present on the official track list. Another pair of tracks I love, Lifeline and Lifeline Redux, are similarly split by this imaginary wall. Lifeline is the penultimate track on the official album, and it pulls out a trick that never fails to work in the world of rock, a melancholy background harmonica. My favourite example of this in rock history is Bowie's A New Career in a New Town, and it just creates such a vibe and basically is like a cheat code to elevate any song and hit you in the feels without saying an actual word. Lifeline Redux takes the same chord progression but adds vocals and a gritty guitar with an amazing tone and some perfect high note upstrokes that almost hit the same emotional tone as the harmonica on the previous version, just from a different angle. While these tracks obviously need some separation due to their similarity, I don't know how I'll feel when I get the album on vinyl and it's not actually on there. Strange sequencing decisions and a few patchy cuts aside though, I'm feeling a solid 8 out of 10 on this. I love the goal the band set for themselves on this album to really represent and celebrate their hometown, and I think they absolutely achieved it and more. It also has great songs with great performances, and yeah, just love it. Alright, that's enough for me chatting braff about this record. What do you think? Have you heard this one? Show some love, share some thoughts, or just hold some abuse in the comments. And I assume if you've made it, this far, you must love my reviews at this point. So don't be coy, don't be cute, stop messing about, just subscribe. We've got loads more of this stuff coming your way. Saturday specials, Sunday Jazz Club, and reviews every single day. In the meantime, check out links to some other videos that you might like in the description. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers, mate. Bye.